Hey everyone, and welcome back to Photon Photography. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of macro photography with a focus on one of nature's busiest creatures, bees. I'll be sharing some tips and techniques to help you capture stunning close-ups, including using macro flashes, choosing the right lens, and understanding how aperture affects your shots. Plus, I'll walk you through the settings I use on my Canon R7. Let's get right into it. First off, let's talk about the gear. My go-to lens for macro photography is the Canon RF 100mm f2.8L. This lens offers incredible sharpness and a 1:1 magnification ratio, making it perfect for capturing every tiny detail of a bee. Additionally, it can shoot at 1.4 times magnification, allowing me to get even closer and reveal more intricate details. One of the key aspects of macro photography is lighting. Natural light can be beautiful, but sometimes it's not enough to get the detail you want. That's where macro flashes come in handy. I use the Godox MF12, which provides consistent and adjustable lighting, helping to illuminate those intricate details. Now let's discuss the difference between handheld and tripod shooting. Handheld shooting gives you more flexibility and freedom to move around, which is great when you're chasing bees around the garden. I personally do almost all of my work handheld, especially with bee photography. However, it can be challenging to keep the camera steady, especially at high magnifications. Using a tripod, on the other hand, ensures stability and can help you achieve sharper images, especially when working with slower shutter speeds. Another crucial factor in macro photography is the choice of aperture. A wide aperture, like f2.8, creates a shallow depth of field, isolating the subject and blurring the background. However, this can sometimes result in a very narrow focus area, making it tricky to get the entire bee in focus. On the other hand, stopping down to a smaller aperture like f11 or f16 increases the depth of field, bringing more of the bee into sharp focus. But be aware that smaller apertures can introduce diffraction, which may reduce overall sharpness. It's all about finding the right balance for your shot. Now let's talk about the camera I use, the Canon R7. There are a few key settings that I find particularly useful for macro photography. Firstly, I turn off exposure simulation because I use a flash. And if you don't, it blacks out the viewfinder. So this is important. This also means you have to check your exposure manually, similar to using a DSLR. Without exposure simulation, you won't see the exact exposure in the viewfinder. So it's important to check your histogram and take test shots to ensure proper exposure. I typically use single burst mode for capturing bees. The flash needs time to recycle the full power, so high burst rates don't work that well. For white balance, I set it to flash to get consistent color temperature when using the Godox MF12. My ISO is usually between 100 to 400, keeping the noise level low while maintaining good exposure. For aperture, I prefer settings between f8 and f16 to balance depth of field and sharpness. Shutter speed is another critical setting. I shoot at 320th of a second because it's the Canon R7's native sync rate. I use the electronic first curtain shutter mode, which allows this sync rate and helps mitigate shutter shock. Using a higher shutter speed requires high-speed sync, which the Godox MF12 is capable of, but I prefer not to use it. High-speed sync uses multiple bursts of light, which diminishes the light power and increases recycle times. For autofocus, I use the Expand AF Area Cross type setting. This helps in accurately locking focus on the bees, especially when they're moving. However, when shooting at 1.4 times magnification, I find manual focus works best. It gives me more precise control over the focus, which is crucial at such extreme magnifications. I also like to use manual focus peaking, which is one of the great advantages of mirrorless cameras. It highlights the in-focus areas, making it easier to ensure your subject is sharp. Another important aspect of my workflow is shooting in RAW. This allows me to take full advantage of the sensor's information and give me greater flexibility in post-processing. RAW files contain more data than JPEGs, which means I can recover more details in both the shadows and highlights and make more precise adjustments to color and exposure. Now let's take a look at some of my favorite bee shots and see how these techniques come together. And there you have it. With the right gear, lighting, and understanding of aperture, along with the optimal settings on your Canon R7, you can capture amazing macro shots of bees. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more photography content. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover next. Thanks for watching, and happy shooting!